You know that feeling, right? When someone just gets stuck in your head? You can't exactly explain why, but there they are. They've set up camp and they're not leaving. We have all been there. This one person just completely takes over your thoughts, and you can't figure out what their secret is. What is this magnetic pull? You're replaying conversations, you're looking forward to the next time you see them. Okay, let's unpack this because it's truly one of the most universal mysteries of human connection. And here's the secret. It's not magic. It's almost never an accident. See, this kind of intense attraction, it isn't random. It follows a predictable script, a psychological one. So today, we're going to decode that script. We're going to pull back the curtain so you can see what's really going on. To really get a handle on obsession, we first have to understand our own brains, how they're wired. This is less about high-level emotions and more about raw neurology. And the key to unlocking it all? It's a little something called intermittent reinforcement. Just think of a slot machine. The reason it's so addictive isn't because you get a payout every single time you pull the lever. It's the maybe. It's the unpredictability of the win that keeps you hooked. It's the same exact principle behind social media notifications. And yeah, it's the same principle that makes certain people so compelling. So this contrast right here is everything. When a reward, like someone's attention or affection, is consistent, you feel satisfied. It's nice. But when that very same reward becomes unpredictable, it doesn't create satisfaction at all. It creates craving. Your brain goes into overdrive, becoming obsessed with solving the puzzle to get that next hit. You know, this is a huge misconception about dopamine. We all think of it as the pleasure chemical that we get after we get the reward. But that's not the whole story. It actually spikes the hardest in anticipation of an uncertain reward. So when someone keeps you guessing, it might be emotionally frustrating, but for your brain, it's neurologically captivating. Your brain is just firing on all cylinders, completely hooked on the what if. Okay, so with that brain science in our back pocket, let's look at the first major strategy that triggers this kind of obsessive thinking. It is all about making something feel scarce. Their attention, their time, their approval. It's basic economics, really. When supply is low, perceived value goes through the roof. And here are 4 classic ways this plays out. You've got the slow fade, where their availability just kind of dwindles, leaving you to wonder what you did. There's hot and cold signaling. One day they're all in, the next they're distant. The unfinished conversation creates this open loop in your mind you can't close. And then there's the attention spotlight. They give you this intense, amazing focus, and then suddenly it's gone, and you're left wanting more. You know that unfinished conversation thing? Well, there's a name for that. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, and it is a well-documented psychological principle. Our brains are hardwired to want closure. We hate open loops. So when a conversation is cut off mid-thought, your brain just keeps it running on repeat, trying to find an ending that it never got. It's basically a mental cliffhanger. This quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the core of this whole scarcity strategy. The obsession isn't born from admiring how perfect they are. It's born from all the mental energy you're spending trying to solve the puzzle that they've become. They're an unresolved problem in your mind. All right, on to the second strategy. This one isn't so much about taking things away, it's about demonstrating high value. It's built on the idea that we are naturally drawn to people who have a strong sense of self-worth and really clear standards, because it signals to our brains that they are a valuable, selective person. These behaviors are subtle, but they are incredibly effective. You've got soft competition awareness, which isn't about making you overtly jealous, but just making you aware that other people value their time and attention. Then there's praise that lands differently. It's specific, it's insightful, and it shows they have high standards. And of course, the soft boundary signal, which just screams self-respect. And this is a perfect example. It's not a threat, it's not an ultimatum, it's just a calm statement of fact. It communicates their standards without any drama, and it effectively puts the ball in your court. You either meet that standard or you don't. It immediately frames them as the one who holds the prize. So the bottom line is that this strategy works because it's the total opposite of neediness. Neediness pushes people away, but self-respect and clear standards, they signal that this person's validation is actually worth earning. It activates this fundamental drive we all have to pursue what is valuable and not so easily won. Our final strategy, well, this one might be the most emotionally powerful of them all. It's about creating a bond that feels incredibly deep and meaningful, but is actually uneven or asymmetrical.
one person ends up becoming way more emotionally invested than the other.
Selective vulnerability is when someone shares just enough to make you feel trusted and special, creating this one-sided intimacy. The push-pull loop is that mini cycle of drawing you in and then pushing you away. It's surprisingly addictive. And the mirror game, where someone reflects your best self back at you, makes you feel seen in this uniquely powerful way. All three of these tactics create deep emotional investment, and they do it fast.
You see, when vulnerability is mutual, it creates a real connection. But when one person shares something deeply personal and the other person doesn't really reciprocate, the bond becomes totally lopsided. The listener starts to feel this sense of trust and responsibility, and they get emotionally invested in the other person's world. This quote really highlights the power of the mirror game. It's when someone reflects your absolute best qualities back at you, maybe even slightly elevated. They see your potential. And this taps into one of our deepest human needs, to be seen for who we could be. Before you know it, you start associating that amazing feeling of being your best self with them. Okay, so we have broken down the neurology and the three core strategies: creating scarcity, signaling value, and building these asymmetric bonds. The big question now is, what do you do with this information? And let's be absolutely crystal clear on this point. The purpose of this explainer is not to give you a playbook for mind games. Using these tactics intentionally can be manipulative and really harmful. That is not the goal here. The real power here is awareness. It's about being able to recognize these patterns when they're happening, whether someone's using them on you or, and this is a big one, whether you might be using them unconsciously yourself. It's about finally understanding the why behind that intense pull you sometimes feel. This right here is the single most important takeaway. Understanding the psychology of attraction doesn't ruin the magic. It simply allows you to navigate your feelings and relationships with clarity and with intention, instead of just being a puppet to your own neurochemistry. So I'll leave you with that. When you look back at past attractions, or maybe look at your current ones through this new lens, what patterns do you suddenly see? What becomes totally clear now that you know what to look for?